Welcome to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed.
Where wellness gets a fun twist. I'm Gordy Jenkins, a natural foods entrepreneur, and with me is Dr. Zed DeBout, a resident-trained Stanford MD. We are former college swim teammates turned best friends, and now your guide to this crazy world of health trends and fitness hacks with a focus on getting the science right. Get ready for a wild ride. This is Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Today, I am genuinely very excited to be back after we've had a bit of a wonky winter break. The city where I'm in is on fire currently. It's a bit of a wild time. So first off, thanks for being here, Zed. But at the time of this recording, it is Quitter's Day, which I learned about on a recent Apple commercial. So today you'll hear about why resolutions are appealing, why they fail, and how you can stick to your New Year's resolutions. But before we acknowledge all the balls dropping around the world, let's see what Dr. Zed learned while going through health this week.
I'm enjoying the new challenge of trying really hard not to laugh into the microphone while you're pretending you're like floating in the International Space Station. During the intro. But
the intro, that is hard. I forgot to breathe during it. So then once we actually started recording, I was like, all right.
Well, not breathing, maybe not such a bad thing where you are right now.
That's true. Oh, yeah. I did forget that I am wearing the sunglasses because my eyes are very irritated from the air quality being quite bad right now. But hey, could be worse. We are doing all right.
Hey, don't take them off on my account. Actually, please put them back on my account. All right. Well, we'll get into all that. But yeah, just while going through health this week, maybe we'll cover lung health and fires soon because it's pretty applicable. Yeah. But no, so I just thought, hey, how about a little heartwarming? Well, actually, first will be sweet, then we'll be sour. But how about first a little sweet story, this NPR story about a weightlifting gym in Baltimore that helps older people build more than just strength. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I look forward to it. What else could they help them
build? Your decks, your backsplashes. Your confidence. But yeah, so basically it's just this gym, 5x3 training. Shout out 5x3. But it's this gym in Baltimore owned by Emily Sokolinski. But it actually a couple of days a week really focuses on helping seniors build strength and confidence, offering personalized coaching in a supportive environment. But no, I just wanted to pull out because I thought I think there's such a need for this. So many people, like even just after college, we've talked about this before. I mean, there's a variety of like gym memberships and like ClassPass and whatever the case may be. But even for like older generations, there's not much in terms of teaching or coaching or these structured courses where if you didn't grow up doing this stuff, you can come and learn it at a later age. And there's so much science behind improving quality of life, it preventing like injuries and decompensation and all that kind of thing. So I just thought this was a kind of really fascinating little story around this gym where these older clients are getting these significant improvements in their like daily activities and quality of life. And they're like, it's these 80-year-old ladies doing deadlifts and stuff. And I just thought it was super cute.
That's awesome. That's badass too. Oh, good. That's a good shout out. That is sweet in terms of it's not sour. I like that. That's good news. That's a good little, that's a happy, good positive thing that you found while going through health, and I'm very happy about it. I don't know if I could handle Ozempic like makes fires worse or something.
Well, I got something for you in a second to bring you back down. We got to stay even here. But no, just to give Sokolinski a little more credit and to give some context. So she's this former dancer, and apparently she'd suffered from like back issues for a lot of her life, but she really found this freedom from pain in by going through like strength training. And so she's really hoping to help others achieve similar benefits. So the whole point of this gym, again, is 5x3 training part of it is to emphasize the importance of physical activity as you get older and to really preserve that muscle mass and that bone density and then overall mobility as you age. So it's never too, as we're thinking about New Year's resolutions and kind of the subject for this show, it's never too late and it's never too early to start thinking about those things and implementing them in your daily life.
That's right. It's always the right time.
All right. You ready for me to make you cry for real, though?
Let's go, man. My eyes already feel like they are.
Okay. Well, I have a little article from Inside Med by Jeremy Faust called DEFCON 3 for H5N1, H5N1, H5N1. It's like a baby. Yeah. My dad works at N1. Circa 2000, whatever.
Yeah, that baby's 25 now.
Yeah. And hating life. But yeah, so DEFCON 3 for H5N1. Parenthesis, DEFCON 1 is the worst, which is helpful because I would have kind of intuitively you'd think DEFCON 5. Yeah, not DEFCON 5.
Is
it's the best. Yeah. Your ideal state is DEFCON 5.
So what am I in right now?
Well, no, this guy's argument. I'm not sure what the official DEFCON is. I know there
Cool.
isn't there that one like world doomsday clock too that kind of scientists keep track. I haven't checked that in a minute.
I haven't checked that in a while. We got really. I think we're already at like
I think
59. Checked in 2011
in 40 seconds now. Well, time's almost up. But yeah, so the point of this guy's article was basically if you're not following this H5N1, this bird flu stuff, the bird flu, there's this critical case in British Columbia. A healthy teenager in British Columbia became critically ill, required intensive medical care. And so a little bit of a concerning development because they track these more severe cases because they are a potential problem. If it's bad, it can be bad for everyone. So not to get too complicated, but just the most general statements. But no, so basically H5N1 cases in the US until December 18th, there were about 65 mild cases reported in the US. And so there's likely many more undetected, but they're probably mild or asymptomatic. But the first severe US case in a US resident was this older man who was exposed to birds, believe it or not. And that was announced by the CDC on December 18th, raising significant concern. Yeah. And this is why you don't feed the birds.
Yeah, this is exactly why you don't feed the birds. Why did what is it? I assume it's like farmers and agricultural workers and stuff like that are mostly like on the front line getting the transmission.
Exactly. So that they're supposed to get special precautions and recommend included like increased testing in those high risk settings and then enhanced sort of PPE for farm workers and then considering like stockpiling vaccine for distribution to these high risk groups. But yeah, I don't know about where you are, but there's like big egg shortages, of course, because they're having to cull all these flocks. And yeah, it's pretty nasty and awful. So
and we're like watching out for like when it starts going from human to human, right? Like that's when it really is like, oh, it's bad.
Yeah. Do you remember that one time we had this pandemic?
Yeah, I think I
do. Yeah. It could be.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was at 12:58 on the doomsday clock.
Already an hour passed.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, hopefully we don't trend in that direction, but it is a possibility. And so CDC and other governmental agencies are hoping to walk this tightrope between awareness and alarm, so informing the public about these potential threats, but not causing alarm fatigue. So hopefully none of you have alarm fatigue in the new year.
That is not an enviable PR job right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I know the first time around, people were unhappy with what we did.
Let's try this again, though. Fresh start.
Feeling good about it.
New year, new us.
God bless them.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But
I hope.
Anyways,
so. I hope
that was that was the sort of fun stuff that jumped out at me in the news this week going through health.
I really, 86-year-old deadlifters. Hey, that is awesome. Farm workers, 18-year-olds, young, otherwise healthy people getting bird flu. Not as fun, but hey, that was a fun little DEFCON fact that will transition us very well into our soap today.
So in medicine, soap notes are that structured format that way for doctors and nurses to organize information about a patient. So if you don't know, SOAP stands for subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. I had a brief urge to try and think of what SOAP could stand for. I was just like regular soap, but I was like, no, not today. Yeah, so that's subjective is what the patient shares, what they feel or experience. The objective is that measurable stuff. So the vitals, the tests, anything observable. Then the assessment is where the clinician pulls it all together, making sense of the story and data. And the plan, pretty straightforward, is the plan. Always when defining something, try to use the same word in the definition. Yeah, so that's what happens next. So that's an opportunity for us to discuss it in a looser, more personal context.
I like that. I like the plan. So yeah, this week's episode is the soap and our deep dive, and gives a little more time to just look at the big picture and discuss that. And then next week we'll do the rinse and the spin cycle, and it's our chance to reinforce what we've learned today and talked about today, but also to discuss a little bit more about any questions anyone may have had or we had, and play with a little bit of those weird stories, tangents, and narratives that we enjoy doing, like our fast fire questions and stuff like that. But shall I kick us off with the subjective today?
Shall you ever?
Would you like to kick it off by asking me to kick it off for us?
Yeah, Gordy, why don't you kick us off with the subjective today?
I must sound like a really micromanaging guy right now. Good job, Zed. That was perfect. Subjective, you say?
That made it worse.
Well, our subject today is New Year's. Happy New Year. Happy New Year's, Ed. I honestly haven't talked to
I
you
don't know
since
that we've talked in the
last
New Year. Yeah. Happy New Year.
You've been almost dead, it seemed like. So
It's true.
it's good to see you.
Alive.
You look well. You look great, man. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Quitter's Day, which I mentioned in the up top that I heard about in an Apple commercial. I don't know if you've seen that commercial. They I don't know, they're selling an Apple product.
Fuji.
But yeah, exactly. Just apples, big apples commercials. So the rise of Quitter's Day. Let me tell you a bit about that.
Okay.
All right. January 1st. The champagne bubbles have fizzled out, and the glitter confetti is now stuck to your carpet, and you've declared to the world, or at least your dog, that this is the year. This is the year that you run a marathon, or relearn French, or commit to writing and recording 365 different facts that you have to edit into a million different formats, and it feels very daunting. But fast forward to today, the second Friday, today's recording, second Friday of January, and now you've learned enough for an entire year. Your Duolingo streak is just a faint memory, and your running shoes are smoking cigarettes. So congratulations, you've arrived at Quitter's Day, the unofficial holiday of abandoned aspirations. It's not something to applaud, Zed.
Oh, sorry.
Are you listening?
I was just the general vibe was inspiring. Your tone was inspiring.
All right, cool. All right. Quitter's Day, which falls on the second Friday of January, isn't marked on traditional calendars. Spoiler. On the calendar, it's like,
Quitter's Day must quit by this time.
Because this came about in 2019 with the fitness app Strava analyzing tens of millions of user activities to uncover a startling trend. By mid-January, participation in fitness goals drops sharply. In other words, the treadmills empty out, the meal prepping containers collect dust, and people everywhere quietly retreat from their New Year's resolutions.
Dang, 2 weeks in is definitely faster. It's not even 2 weeks; it's the 12th. It's 12 days.
It starts on a Friday. That can be real quick. The psychology behind Quitter's Day boils down to three main culprits: overambition, lack of planning, and the slippery nature of motivation. So, first, resolutions tend to reflect an idealized version of ourselves: thinner, smarter, more disciplined. But when goals are vague, like be healthier, overly ambitious, run a marathon in 2 months, kind of a slow time, they set us up for failure, Zed. Behavioral scientists like Dr. Katie Milkman. I don't know. Do you think it's Milkman, or is it maybe it's Milkman? Dr. Milkman.
Dr. Milkman. Yeah, that would be my guess.
Milkman, let me know. Of the University of Pennsylvania, emphasized the importance of breaking goals into small, achievable steps, a principle known as chunking. So when you skip straight to the marathon without mastering the 5K first, you're more likely to hit a wall literally and figuratively. I don't know, literally, if you're like, I don't run straight. But lack of planning. That's another reason a lot of resolutions fail. It's not enough just to declare. It's not enough to just declare your intentions. Successful resolutions require actionable strategies that you can't just say it. And this is where concepts like implementation intentions come into play. And research by psychologist Dr. Peter Gallwitzer has shown that people are significantly more likely to achieve goals when they pre-plan specific actions. For example, instead of saying, I'll go to the gym more, you can reframe it as, I'll work out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m.
A little more actionable. Yeah.
Actionables, exactly. And the third thing that the pitfall of resolutions is the motivation trap. Motivation feels great in the moment, but it's a fleeting feeling. Neuroscientists explain that motivation is closely tied to dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for our brain's reward system. Dopamine spikes when we envision achieving a goal, but maintaining those levels requires consistent feedback, something most resolutions lack. By January 10th or 12th, the initial thrill of starting fresh has worn off, and without small, tangible wins, the brain struggles to maintain momentum.
Interesting. So I wonder if you could just kind of take advantage of the motivation trap and keep setting new goals every 12 days.
Yeah, right.
Something else to get excited about.
Well, if there's a silver lining to Quitter's Day, it's kind of what you were just talking about. It's the fresh start effect, and it really does has a large effect on human behavior. So you could do a 12 cycle. That actually is a great idea. Coined by behavioral scientists, the fresh start effect explains why temporal landmarks, like temporal, like related to time, like New Year's, birthdays, or even Mondays, make us feel more motivated to tackle the big goals that we set. According to a 2014 study by Dr. Hengchin Dai and colleagues, these moments create a psychological separation between our past self and future self, allowing us to shed old habits and imagine a brighter, better version of ourselves.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. But it can also it can backfire. The same effect can backfire. The pressure to be completely transformative in your life overnight can lead to burnout, especially when the inevitable misstep occurs. Miss one workout or indulge in that dessert, and the entire resolution feels tainted. Psychologists call this the "what the hell" effect, which I thought was a funny name. It's a cognitive bias where one small failure leads to a total abandonment of the goal. That's literally, just like, well, I already. It's like saying, well, why not? F it. Like, already did this. Like, what's that gonna do?
Yeah, I already ran the marathon. Yeah, what's the point?
Exactly.
Of another marathon.
There is no Quitter's Day isn't entirely bad though today, because we're acknowledging it, and that can be the key to long-term success. By mid-January, the novelty of New Year's has worn off. I would say the fire has really worn that novelty of New Year off quickly, and reality has indeed set in. So it's actually a good time to reevaluate any resolutions and adjust them to something more realistic. Maybe running a marathon in 2025 was too much, but committing to running 3 times a week is something achievable and doable, and you can stick to it. It's like resilience, not perfection, is the true hallmark of success. A study from University of Chicago found that people who allowed themselves room for error in their goals, like skipping one workout per week without guilt, kind of like the cheat day phenomenon a little bit, they actually they were more likely to sustain their habits long-term than those who tried and strove for complete perfection.
Makes sense.
So I thought, yeah, makes sense. But it's also like, I feel like that could really be true with like addiction stuff, or like, like off the wagon, or in a ton of different situations where momentum and streakiness is so entrenched in the like philosophy, I guess. So yeah, as Quitter's Day is upon us, do not think of this as a death of your resolution. Think of it as a recalibration point, a chance to weed out what doesn't work and double down on what does. After all, it's not about how you start; it's about what you stick with.
Oh, can I applaud now?
Oh yeah,
is that a good time? Here's maybe a little Quitter's Day hack. Maybe your resolution can be something like quit my resolutions by January 12th. And then boom, you already kind of cross that off the list early in the new year. Start the year off strong.
Very short goals.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Time compression there. But you're going to have a really busy 12 days, though, depending on the goals.
Yeah, that's true. I'll make them general.
Yeah, Yeah, did you not learn anything? Do not make it general.
Make them inactionable in general.
Yeah, world peace.
Yeah.
Well, that's a subjective. Zed, hit us with the objective. Objectify me, Captain.
All right. Well, in line with this theme of New Year's resolutions.
Welcome to Barcelona.
Well, it's still New Year's in Barcelona. All right.
Not
So,
you, folks.
there are some ancient origins, which I know you're going to get into in the rinse and spin cycle, but just to briefly touch on them, these ancient origins of New Year's resolutions. There was a tradition dating way back over 4,000 years ago. Really, really tough to kind of imagine that time frame in my mind. But the Babylonians, one of our favorite ancient groups of people, societies, they actually made promises to their gods to start the year off right by returning borrowed objects and paying debts. So yeah, kind of that would not be my inclination to make promises to the gods. That feels like a little bit of a kind of over promise situation.
Yeah. And they're gonna keep tabs on you.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, it's like making promises to like Santa Claus and stuff.
Yeah,
And then
you're gonna want to tone that down and figure out who you really want to make promises to. Someone a little more forgiving and less omniscient.
And someone a little more forgetful with like a narrower sight line is your action.
Promises to omniscient people is a rough thing to have to do.
But love the kind of gung ho attitude. All right, so that was Babylonians. Roman influence wouldn't be a GTH ep if we didn't touch on the Romans. They continued the tradition by making promises to Janus. So we kind of touched on those with the Babylonians, but in medieval times, Christians really took a page out of the Babylonian books, and they adopted the tradition. They held watch night services on New Year's Eve to reflect on past mistakes and resolve to improve in the coming year. And then, modern evolution by our 20th century New Year's resolutions have become a little more secular and focused on self-improvement, and then kind of really increasing the emphasis on health and wellness, which I don't have a problem with.
No, I think that a lot of my resolutions are related to that.
So in our contemporary times, we talked about a lot of like health and well-being focus, but of course there's cultural influences, commercialization, the huge fitness and wellness industries trying to capitalize on this tradition. And honestly, if you get all these people signing up for your membership and they're out by like the 12th of January, I feel like that's pretty well worth the advertising spend.
You got to make it a long billing cycle. So
exactly, right? Lock them in for 6 months. Yeah. But if you're looking for clear gyms, I guess work out at home for the first 2 weeks of the year, and then you can get back to your usual programming. And then,
do you remember that? Do you remember like swimming over like? Yeah, it's just swimming is really rough at that time. The lanes are super crowded.
The pools, everyone's in there.
It's like almost as bad as when the Olympics are on and everyone decides to become a swimmer.
I kind of enjoy those times, at least the Olympics every 4 years. But I do remember the pool just getting crazy crowded. But my New Year's resolution was usually to stop swimming, but coach wouldn't let me.
Quit, man. I get it.
All right, do you want to take a guess at what the top 5 most common healthy New Year's resolutions are?
I would say probably I'm gonna say lose weight. I'm gonna say
check.
Quit smoking or like tobacco
check.
Or nicotine or something. Is like something like eat healthier one, or does that count as
check?
Lose weight?
No, it's actually different.
Work out, is that in there? Working out.
Exercise regularly. Yeah.
How many more dollars do I have? One.
That's like 4 out of 5. Yeah, can you get the 5 for 5?
Make more money.
No, you fool! It's reduce stress.
You
capitalist pig.
The opposite.
But no, I just think it's kind of interesting. Yeah, 1, exercise regularly. 2, eat healthier. 3, lose weight. 4, quit smoking. 5, reduce stress. But all those kind of tied together. And really, if you're exercising regularly and eating healthier, 3 is kind of going to come along with that. And 5, reducing stress, will probably be in pocket as well. So, but no, anyways, just thought it was kind of interesting and not bad goals all around.
I wonder, no one's ever like polled me on my resolutions before.
Well,
maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, let's hear from our sponsors today, Zed.
Tired of abandoning your New Year's resolutions? Meet the Resolution Reminder Drone.
the hovering guilt machine that keeps you on track. Reaching for a donut? Didn't you say no sugar? Skipping the gym? Oh, I didn't realize you had already worked out. Oh, wait. With passive-aggressive mode, it'll nudge you with bold choice, champ. Super healthy as always. Switch to full parental shame mode, and it hits you with, this is why we can't have nice things. And will drop brochures for military school all over your yard. The drone follows you everywhere, work, the gym, even the bathroom. Order now and get the Sidekick drone free, designed to hover over your snacks and whisper, really? At 10 p.m.? Resolution reminder drone, because guilt is the ultimate motivator. Welcome back, everyone. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and rate us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Drop us a comment or some likes on some Instagram posts. Engage with us, if you will, at going through health dot podcast. Always the hardest for me to say. That dot and the O's are the dat podcast. Going through health dot podcast on Instagram. And remember, next week we're going to be rinsing off all of this Quitter's Day soap talk. And we're going to be going through the first culture that Zed touched on, depending on how he edits it. The first culture to make New Year's resolutions.
All right, nice. Well, yeah, that I enjoyed the sort of guilt drone. It kind of made me realize that I don't even need a guilt drone because my brain works in a fun way where I have that drone in my head always saying that stuff.
That's
So,
nice. You got the built-in feature.
healthy, yeah. And then Bluetooth. But yeah. Anyway, so I know we're talking about New Year's resolutions, so let's break down our impressions and share some asides as part of our assessment and plan.
Well, Zed, you can't talk about New Year's resolutions without digging deeper into that fresh start effect and the idea of temporal landmarks. Am I saying that right? Is that how you would say it, or would you just say temporal?
Temporal.
I feel like I say like temporal lobe.
I would say it however I heard it in like lecture by like some
That's
weird
right.
lecture
Like,
professor. Yeah.
Like, do I have to say it in an Indian accent like my professor said it? Like that's how I've heard it. But
How did they say it?
For me. That's for our Patreon content. But this is a big one for me, Zed. I love having a fresh start. I think I really like resolutions. I like the start of a new year. I like the blank slate of it all.
New ground scoured by fire.
Exactly. Oh, good. I will start a city here. But all that, and just the idea of like temporal landmarks, the idea of like how sub 20-second 50 free, sub 2-hour marathon, 10-second 100-meter dash, are all these benchmarks that are, have such clear delineations. And I always find it kind of fascinating, the whole psychology behind all of that and how that ends up being like that. Like 300 in baseball.
Yeah, sub-hour 20-minute podcast kind of.
I don't think it's possible. But either way, that's what, that fresh start effect. That's what psychologists call it. The fresh start effect, as we mentioned, was studied in 2014 by behavioral scientist Dr. Heng-Chen Dai and her colleagues, Dr. Catherine Milkman, got milk, and Jason Rees at University of Pennsylvania. And their research showed that temporal landmarks like New Year's Day, birthdays, or even Mondays helped us psychologically separate our past self from our future self, as I mentioned. It's like, that was the old me. Now this is the new me. It's like a very clear, hey, now I'm different now. In their experiments, the researchers found that people were more likely to pursue their goals, whether it was starting a diet or committing to exercise, immediately following these landmarks. One study. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that kind of makes me think. I bet there's similar effect findings like between different sort of like life landmarks, like not just birthdays and that kind of thing, but like graduating from high school and college, for example, is a prime time where people like reinvent themselves or like switching jobs. So yeah, I wonder if it's like analogous.
Oh yeah, totally. I bet it is. So one study even analyzed gym attendance data and found that the spikes significantly increased after New Year's, not a surprise. And then even right after federal holidays. I don't know why that's like at all surprising, but makes sense if you have time or any sort of ability to gather yourself and collect yourself and recalibrate, as we mentioned up top. It kind of gives you an opportunity to do so. So why does this work? Like we mentioned, it's that identity reset. That was the old me. Now this is the new me. You also are just motivated with just goal motivation itself. Fresh starts are inherently optimistic, and they let us focus on potential achievement and improvement rather than our past failures. And then third, increased planning around those times. People, as I mentioned, take inventory of their lives, recalibrate, and are able to look at the big picture and kind of see what matters to them and reprioritize their actions and their energy. So, and as we mentioned, there's a downside of it all, which is the what the hell effect, as we mentioned. And that was coined by psychologist Janet Polivy and C. Peter Herman, aka C.P. Herman. This phenomenon, sorry to Dr. Milkman and Dr. Herman. This phenomenon describes how one small failure can spiral into total abandonment of a goal. So, for example, it's like if you skip a workout or eat an entire box of chocolate, you're like, might as well, or if you skip a workout, you might as well just, I'm being bad today. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just, and then it just kind of snowballs. Like, I already broke the seal. Might as well just go ham.
Oh, I know the feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, as we mentioned earlier, keep the goals realistic. That's the best way to take advantage of the fresh start effect. Doing that chunking, more manageable, smaller goals that even your every 12 days. Implementation intentions, as mentioned, specifics, deliverables, these days, these times, and then just being easy with yourself, as we mentioned, is another good way to keep fostering the fresh start effect. Showing a little self-compassion and not beating up on yourself so that it just becomes the what the heck effect. So I thought those were rather interesting.
I think a little bit of I realize now, like it makes more sense what the hell effect, because I was thinking about it as like a what the hell effect, but it's really a what the hell effect. Like I'll do it anyways. Like F it. Yeah.
It's not like what the heck are you doing? It's like it's like what the heck? Like I'm on vacation.
Who cares now? Yeah. I already ate like 4 In-N-Out burgers. Like what's 18 more?
The city's on fire. I don't care.
They're gonna burn if I don't.
I'm gonna wear sunglasses inside. I don't care. That's all I really have to say about that. So what are some things that you found interesting?
Box of chocolates. That's all I got to say.
That's all I have to say about that. But what are some things you found compelling, Lieutenant Dan?
Drill Sergeant. Well, Gordy, I found. Well, I think in general we've all experienced. We have like anecdotal stories around those things where we've had a cheat day, or it wasn't supposed to be a cheat day, but we did a little something. And we're like, well, yeah, what the heck? And then I know for me too, I definitely struggle with that, trying to keep the goal perfect thing, where I know you said it's related, where if it's not perfect, if something messes up, it's like, well, what's the point of any of it anyways, which is like not very conducive and like doesn't make a ton of sense. But weird little human quibble trait. But anyway, so one of the things that I thought was interesting that I came across, so the study was called A Large-Scale Experiment on New Year's Resolutions. Approach-oriented goals are more successful than avoidance-oriented goals. So I think this touches on, maybe in slightly different language, a little bit of what you were talking about earlier. But basically, as we know, there's a lot of participants in this study, there was a focus on physical health in their goals. So New Year's resolutions tended to tie back to their physical health, which is consistent with previous research and market trends. And then in terms of success rates, most participants reported success in maintaining their resolutions at each follow-up, including a 12-month follow-up, so achieving higher success rates than most previous studies, which was a little bit interesting. But anyways, the main meat of the study was around the approach versus avoidance goals. So to define them, approach goals, so these involve pursuing positive outcomes or aspirations. So for example, exercising regularly to improve fitness. So basically, trying to think about it as you're approaching a good thing. You're approaching eating better or exercising better or working out more consistently at 7 a.m. 3 days a week. Whereas avoidance goals, so these focus on avoiding negative outcomes. So I'm not going to eat junk food to prevent weight gain, or I'm not going to run a marathon in less than 2 months or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. That makes sense.
So they found that participants with the approach-oriented, sort of the more positive pursuit goals, were significantly more successful than those with the avoidance-oriented goals. So that's been a trend that's been seen in multiple academic goal studies. So, I mean, quick little like actionable piece of that. I mean, just because you have an avoidance goal doesn't mean you can't reframe it in an approach goal. So like the example they gave, not eating junk food to prevent weight gain, you can sort of pivot that to like pursuing healthy dinners 3 days a week to achieve weight loss. So just kind of same idea of the goal, but if you're going to set yourself up for success, you can take the approach orientation versus the avoidance orientation.
Cool, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that.
I think the other key piece that they found here, which maybe is pretty intuitive, but important to a reminder for us to kind of facilitate or at least try to structure within our goals, is that participants who received some support, so this was these people in the second group of this experiment, they reported much higher success rates than those with extended support, suggesting that moderate support might be more effective than extensive support. So actually, that was not intuitive, but not intuitive at all. But yeah,
it's a Goldilocks zone of support.
Yeah, where it's just the right, not too much, but yeah, maybe too much support. It just like makes it not fun anymore, or feels a little claustrophobic, or too easy. I don't know, but yeah, I'd have to like.
Yeah, maybe just, you don't feel like you own it enough.
Yeah. Don't baby me, mom, or something. Yeah.
Don't baby him, Zed's mom.
No, it's fine. I don't mind it. I prefer it. But no,
we all need it these days.
But to your point, so the impact of specific goals. So specific and time frame goals could potentially lead participants to feel less successful due to clear benchmarks for failure compared to vague goals. So I thought that was like a little bit almost the opposite of some of the other findings, where you want these specific and time frame goals because they're easier to execute on. Whereas in this case, they found that in some cases it can lead participants to feel less successful because they're like, oh shoot, I couldn't even do this thing that I had a firm time frame with, and so I failed it. Whereas like a vague goal that like, oh, I'll get better at this sometime this year, it's a little harder to fail.
Yeah, all right, that's good. There's like a quote from Dodgeball. I don't remember what it is, but I remember like Vince Vaughn's character being like, "I just don't, you don't have any goals, so you never are disappointed when you fail because you just aspire for nothing, aspire to nothing." And, I guess that's the way. Everyone pause the podcast and go watch Dodgeball, and then finish the podcast. Let me know.
But no, it's just some limitations of the study. So this was a self-reported study. So there's always the typical questions around objectivity and accuracy of results, especially when people are reporting about things like whether they succeeded at their own goals. And then the sample. That's so true. And then the sample was also like self-selected. They volunteered for the study. So potentially more motivated people all around. And they did receive varying levels of support, which could have influenced the higher success rates, because not everyone receives support in their goals. But anyways, main takeaways: approach-oriented goals can be more successful than avoidance-oriented goals, and moderate support may be more beneficial than extensive support. So if you have a way to toggle those levers and how much support you're getting, great. Like you're being a little supportive. Right yeah. Why don't we just be?
Like, I'm not that good at this. I'm kind of not that. I've lost that much weight. Like,
and then, so I think, but one potentially interesting direction for future research could consider sort of objective measures of success and explore this optimal level of support for goal achievement, because a little unclear.
Yeah, it is a little unclear, but I think there's always something, you're not doing enough, you're doing too much. It's really hard to be like perfectly supportive. Yeah, but somehow I do it.
Someday I'll just say it. And a great podcast co-host.
But now it's time for our plan, Zed. And we've been able to talk a lot about our plan as we've gone. But I've always liked this topic. It's a big New Year's always been a big deal for me. I remember when it started with like when I was 6 and stuff. It would start with me like making a resolution to not say the word umbrella for a year. I remember that was I really like these like into the esoteric ones.
Wow.
Did you see that where was that on the top 5 of the list?
You on January 11th under my umbrella, Ella.
yeah, that song was out when I did it. Yeah, you know what I learned from this episode, or I don't know if you learned anything in particular, in particular,
In
but it's just it
particular.
seems like we're not alone in some of the things that trip us up when sticking to a resolution. You know, it can feel daunting. You can definitely like hit waves of more motivation, and then be like, "Wow, I was quite ambitious." Um, but you know, it's also good to like be able to reset, and like it's a way to manage those and keep the resolutions afloat. So I like the temporal landmarks. I think that was my one of the key things that really jumped out to me. I mean, it's already, you know, I understood the concept, but it's nice to have a name on something like that, on a concept that I find is interesting, and having fresh starts I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing too about the fresh starts and the temporal concept is that it really is like a construct. Obviously, we have birthdays and we have federal holidays and stuff, and these gives us a time to like mark these distinctions and gather ourselves. But really, there's nothing preventing ourselves from like actively setting these in a more like even more artificial way and saying, "Hey, this Friday like is a reset," or even if you're like in like down in the dumps or in a struggle, you can always be like, all right, let's reset, fresh start, and there's nothing stopping us from kind of implementing these on a more regular basis.
I agree. It's not even just like taking a shower, you know, just like
Yeah.
here we go, baby, new me, old me, I'm ready.
All right, Gordy takes showers. We get it. Clean guy.
I just wanted to add that in there.
That was actually Gordy's New Year's resolution to start taking showers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sticking to it.
He is.
I was surprised though by how fast people bail
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
resolutions. Like the second Friday,
wild.
I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, granted, that's just an Apple commercial that said it and some Strava data, but it's still
Hey,
like that's
good enough for me.
fast.
No, I
Yeah.
I came away from that kind of like, not too bad, Zed. Good for you.
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
weeks.
Here
you
we go.
you tank.
Yeah.
You
Badass.
Superman. Yeah.
Speaking of badass.
Go ahead.
Please go.
Speaking of badass,
Me.
me. No, I was just gonna say we didn't touch much on this in the research, and it didn't come up. But I found something that's super beneficial. I guess maybe a little bit in the support, but is shared goals. So I know when we were starting this podcast, I feel like we were able to accomplish so much more because we had it wasn't just we didn't owe ourselves. We'd also like told the other person we were going to do this. And I guess as long as I'm sure there's a lot of psychology that goes in here, whether you like respect and want to like help the other person and follow through on what you
Right.
said you're going to do. But I feel like that enabled us to move so much more quickly and get so much more done than like if I had just been like, oh, I want to do this
No.
at some point. That would not have happened.
Neither of us want to be the one that like is leaving the other one hanging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Both of us like psychologically like I better not be the dead weight
Yeah.
or something like that. But I appreciate that too, and it's good. Let's hold each other accountable. Little accountability buddies.
Yeah.
Be the lifting partner of life. Oh, I gotta make t-shirts for us.
Oh, I'll be right back. I gotta get a tattoo.
But I think that was a good enough plan for this one.
Yeah. Did you want to share your badass thing?
I was gonna say who like the GTH badass MVP of the episode. I was gonna give it to Dr. Milkman.
Yeah.
I was gonna give it to Dr. Milkman. Great name and great service and great studies. Thank you, Dr. Milkman.
Well, I was gonna give it to Dr. Milkman.
Dr. Milkman.
Trying to look back through our notes, see if they're different people.
Mailman.
Mailman. Yeah, no, but it is honestly like I remember in medical school we were walked through some of these structures for creating goals, making sure they're like achievable and giving them a time frame and all that stuff, and would genuinely be helpful if I ever actually sat down to do it. But maybe this is the year. I'll give myself 12 days.
12 days. 12 days. Well, cool. It said next week we'll continue a little bit of this, but we're going to rinse off the Quitters Day talks because we're going to be way past Quitters Day by that point. And we're going to go over the big three bangers just as a little bit of an accountability measure for all of us to check in again in a week and see what we're doing and make sure you remember this. Before we explore the early origins of New Year's resolutions, we cover some health news and play the fast fire question. So be sure to tune in. Wow, I got a fat tongue tonight, Zed. Everything I say is stumbling and bumbling out.
Yeah, I can see that being a rapper name.
Fat tongue.
Fat Tongue. 2 Chainz featuring Fat Tongue.
Now that's healthy.
Thanks for watching and listening to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Watch and listen each week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. New episodes available early Monday morning. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Give us 5 stars. Like those videos, those posts. Drop a comment if you like it at goingthroughhealth.podcast on Instagram. Give us a follow. My New Year's resolution at I got fat tongue. I'm telling you. At smartest year ever at smartest year ever on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, even more than this one said. Really working hard on that one. Something good every day. Check that one out. Any questions? Email us gordyandz@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram maybe. So I don't know how much we've been checking that email, to be honest. No, we'll do some listener mail soon. Excited to get back at it next week with you, Zed.
My God, this is the worst case of fat tongue I've ever seen. we got to get this thing out of him.
As long as you're near, I don't mind that wind just looking back over the hill.
Hey, this is Zed. This podcast is intended solely for general informational purposes and does not represent the provision of medical advice or the practice of any professional healthcare services. No clinician-patient relationship is formed. Nice try. And the use of the information provided or materials linked is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not meant to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should seek medical advice for any health issues they may have and should consult their healthcare providers for any such concerns.